The Entrepreneurship and Art episode that you're about to watch is unedited and uncut. Listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your preferred podcast platform for the edited version. Enjoy.
Where do you want to start today?
I'm ready to go. Never been more ready. It's Sunday morning.
Opening monologue, please.
Today make sure you refer to the audience as artpreneurs.
Hello, entrepreneurs. I'm sitting
George
talking
Howard
to...
speaking.
This is George Howard. Hello, my toddlers. Talking to two of my favorite people, smart people on a Sunday morning about a range of things. Got my 3 things this week are just unassailably awesome.
Oh.
Yeah.
I like mine this week too, actually.
Yeah. I think I was a little caffeinated last week. There's a lot of screaming, a lot of cursing.
First time I had to put a language warning in.
I had to put a trigger alert warning on it. So I'm gonna just be like, it's gonna be really like quaaluded out today.
I would actually love it if we just had like a beep. If we could just actually beep over.
Beep George.
Test words.
George beep.
But that's going to require a lot.
You can just a George beep whenever George talks. This is going to be the Quaalude podcast.
Oh,
One time, someone told me before I had to give a talk. So I'm like, George, please don't make any reference to Quaaludes.
How many times are you about to give some type of talk and someone says, don't do this, don't curse, no drugs, no yelling George, about PROs?
If at all possible, could you not reference Quaaludes in your talk about Net Promoter Score today? Would that be possible for you? I mean, we don't want to censor you in any way, but like, if you could just avoid barbiturates in general, that'd be great.
Your latest thing has been comparing marketing to coronavirus.
I'm trying not to do that, but man, you know.
I think you did it 4 times last week on
client
calls.
But it's, you know what I'm thinking though? The whole mask thing, right? Like, I'm struggling with why people are having such a hard time with like the balance between your personal liberties and wearing a mask. And so I was thinking about it. I was like, well, you know what else you have to wear when you go into a store or a restaurant? Pants. You have to wear pants. Okay. It doesn't mean that you're not a free, liberated, autonomous human. We would just prefer that when you walk into our restaurant or store, you wear pants, right? And everybody just goes, yeah, okay, I can do that. I'll wear pants when I go into the store. And nobody's like, you know what? Damn it! If you force me to wear pants, you are infringing upon my right of expression and free speech and my First Amendment right. No, just wear pants. You know why? Because nobody wants to see your junk. Also, there could be, children. So, I mean, it is this ethical thing. But like nobody's having a fit about having to wear pants.
Is it not a thing in the U.S.? No shirt, no shoes, no service?
Of course.
Okay, so it's just you could use an actual example too, and no one has a problem.
Because it's ridiculous. Or like shoes. Like,
no shirt, no shoes.
When you come into my store, you can't come in bare feet, and people fail to understand that sure there are public accommodation laws. You can't deprive someone service based on race or gender or whatever, but you can tell them not to come into the store if they're not wearing any pants. And I don't want to see that. I don't want to be in the Sev and some dude or lady walks in without pants. Is that a bridge too far? Right? So wear a mask because it's.
Are stores in your area not requiring that you wear a mask when you go in?
No, they're not.
Oh.
Restaurants, even.
Yeah, it's not a requirement. But
restaurants are going to eat.
Yeah, exactly.
But where does this end?
Yeah.
I mean, how does that possibly, like, where are you more likely to get molecular, or what's the thing, spittle, I guess, on you in like Brooks Brothers or a restaurant?
I'm with you.
You know?
I don't know if it's the same there, but here you can only sit outside for restaurants, and
No,
you don't
it's
have to
not the
wear a
same
mask.
here.
You can sit inside as well.
I walked by Maddie's yesterday downstairs in the bar, people in there, no masks. This does
Wow.
not end well.
No.
Yeah. I saw a funny tweet of a woman saying,
No pants either.
that said, the problem with the whole mask discussion in the US is that it was articulated to people that it was to protect others. And I'm like, know your audience. If they had made it just about you, maybe it would have gone over better.
We've been talking about this. It's the whole ethical thing. Like, there's a difference between morality and law and ethics. And I mean, my stupid analogy of locking a door in a bathroom is table stakes compared to, like, yeah, I'd prefer not to get coronavirus. Would you mind wearing a mask so that I don't get coronavirus from you? And also, so that the economy doesn't completely tank. I mean, the Dow and it started to slip a bit the other day, but it's been been up in large part, I think, because there's this implication that there's going to be more liquidity put into the market through another round. I don't know, but it's like you got to wear pants.
If you want.
I like that the very real law of wearing shoes wasn't enough for you. You had to upgrade it to pants.
It just seems like you have to, at a certain point, you have to be so almost ludicrous to get people's attention. Like, that thing that went viral the other day about that woman in Trader Joe's or whatever, screaming this, that, or the other thing. Like, she says, well, I have a medical condition. My doctor says I can't wear a mask, right? So if someone had a medical condition in which they couldn't wear pants, I'm not sure what that would be, maybe like a rash, then we would find a way as a society to be like, well, we'll help you out. We'll help all the people that have a medical condition that keeps them from wearing pants. We'll find a way to accommodate you. And if someone has a condition, it's like, I can't wear a mask. I mean, I guess that's a thing. Like, it's given me a rash, and I got to get ready to start teaching for 18 hours a day with a mask
Cleaning
on.
your masks?
I need to get some new masks.
Clean them.
Get some. Well, the ones that I have now, they're disposable. I'm not going to clean, my disposable mask. But I need to get some kind of, it's a whole thing. But, if someone was like, there's some medical reason why I can't wear a mask, okay, we as a society will help you out. We'll figure something. We'll go to the store for you. We'll set up a separate thing for you. In the same way, we help people with disabilities to enter restaurants with a ramp. Right?
Well, but if you have some medical issue where you can't wear a mask, you're probably incredibly vulnerable to coronavirus too, because I would assume
exactly
breathing issues, immune issues, something like that.
She actually says she has a breathing issue, but apparently her breathing issue doesn't impede her from screaming at full volume.
See, this is why I love delivery. Same sushi dish, no pants. No one can stop me. No one can stop me from sitting in my living room with no pants.
That's right.
That's
right. You get it. You get me, Dan. If you just replace pants with mask, or mask with pants for mask, it just becomes ludicrous. Yes, you have the right in your home not to wear pants. Enjoy yourself. Please don't walk down the street without pants. We as a society would prefer you not to do that. Could you do that? Sure, but we'd rather you not. Right? Wear pants. And don't wear shorts either. No shorts. I'd like there to be a ban on men in shorts. I don't think that's ever the right move.
That's a new opinion I've heard from you before.
I just think men over a certain age look completely ridiculous. Like 12 is the age, by the way. Look completely ridiculous.
Before, no?
I don't think so, man. It's very rare. It's exceedingly rare. It's like seeing like an albino tiger.
Oh no, I know what it is. It's your Zoom photo. If you
skateboarding.
skateboarding, you're wearing shorts.
Appropriate skateboard attire. Shorts. Not appropriate for just anything else that's ever swimming. So Dan, you just posted a whole new thing, a whole new article.
Well, a new article about an old thing.
I know, but it's good.
Yeah,
encouragement.
No,
and accountability.
I've got this. I was telling Carly before you jumped on. I've got this backlog of stuff that I got to the office earlier today and just went through it. So
let me ask you this before you go into it: what percentage of getting that done today, just before this podcast, how much did the podcast play a role in that getting it done?
Not that much. I kind of.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
That answer doesn't help me at all.
I know.
Read the room.
I don't want to offend you. I feel a lot more kind of personal pressure and guilt that I assign to myself rather than what I feel from you guys.
I don't want to let you all down. I feel like I want to keep it. It's helpful for me, and the reason I bring it up is because I want the listeners to feel that same level of encouragement and accountability. I know I'm behind. I'm behind on literally everything, but one of the things that I will not let go too far is getting more stuff out there and up there, because I don't want to let my colleagues down. I think that's a good encouragement thing. And nobody's beating me up. I don't get any pokes or prods. George, what's your thing? It's just, again, ethics, right? We're trying to interoperate as people.
Yeah, I mean, it's what changed for me was I needed to stop thinking of this podcast as a piece of content that I was putting out, and more think of it as, what's the right way to put it? I shouldn't get a pat on the back for putting out the podcast, because the podcast is like the default. If I don't do it, that's bad. If I do it,
core
I'm just
competency.
at 0.
Yeah, core competency.
Yeah. So
right.
Anything on top of that is, what I should be encouraged to do, or what I should give myself a pat on the back for.
It's a great distinction. People often confuse competitive advantage and core competency. I was defined core competency as the thing that if you don't do, you fail. So if you are a car company and someone's driving your car down the road and the door falls off, you have failed at your core competency. On the other hand, there is a car company that tuned the sound of its door being closed so that when you close the door, it goes like this. And they tuned it to that sound, exactly that sound, because they felt that sound would be the sound that would be the most comforting sound to the human ear. Dan, you may know the answer to this. Carly, do you know what that sound is?
Can you make the sound one more time?
I can.
A heartbeat.
Wow, that was good.
A heartbeat, but we gotta be more specific. Where is the most reassuring and comforting sound that you can hear a heartbeat?
In the womb.
Look at you.
Am I right?
How do you do that? Yeah. Yes. Lexus tuned their car door closing sound to be sound as if it was to an in utero baby, child, fetus, whatever, the sound of the mother's heartbeat. You're impressive on that. I mean, I remember.
That's scary.
She does that though. We watched Mulholland Drive together, which I've seen like 7 million times, and like been trying to put the pieces together all my life. I was really excited to watch it with Carly, and then in the end, I was super, because I'd like read essays on it and all this exegesis about it, and I was like, you want me to like explain it to you? You want me to mansplain this to you? Would you like me to like Wikipedia this to you? She's like, no, I think I get it. I was like, no, you don't. No one does. No one can get it. It's taken me 30 years to get it, and I've read books, and I sat with David Lynch for 14 hours and had him explain. No, I'm pretty sure I got it. Okay, well, fine. If you're so smart, tell me. And just like said this thing that like people have puzzled over for like, wait, what? And I was like, you're Googling that. Like you were, because we were watching it remotely, which is delightful. I was like, you're 100% reading. Nope. And I believe you. And so, yeah, Carly can do, it's weird. It's
sometimes, I don't know.
Sometimes. Other times
surprised myself. Yeah. I'm surprised that I got that right. It sounded like a heartbeat, but I felt like it was a pretty weird stretch to then tie it to a door closing. But sometimes I don't know. I have those moments where I'm a good guesser. I don't know. Yeah.
Epiphanic moments.
Do you watch murder mysteries and just know the answer as soon as you meet the character that ends up being the murderer?
Often. Yes.
Well, wait, define though. I mean, it's like Scooby-Doo, it's always.
I think when I say murder mysteries, people know that I'm not saying Scooby-Doo. I was thinking like what's Holland Carr? No. What's the author from New Jersey, but all of his works get done in English.
Harlan Coben, not Holland.
Harlan Coben.
Harlan Coben, yeah. I've read a couple of his books. They're good. And he's got great taste in music. He seems like, have you read his books?
I've watched most of the video adaptations, TV shows,
any good?
Series. They're amazing.
Really? That's good to hear.
But they're always filmed in England, and so I just thought he's an English.
No, he's from Jersey.
I know, he's from Jersey, right? Which makes me that much more interested.
Confused? Yeah.
No.
So what are the names of some? Because I've read a couple of the books, and like I said, I follow him on Twitter, and we've actually had a little banter on Twitter just because I think he referenced like the Feelies or some obscure band. I was like, my man, But he just seems like a great guy. And what are the names of the do you know?
The last one I watched was Safe on Netflix.
Okay, it's like a series, so they serialize.
It's like a mini series.
Okay.
The Five, I think, is one of them with the kids going missing. There's definitely one more, but really, really well done. So I never read the book because I didn't even know who he was until I by chance watched one of the series and thought that was great.
Yeah. But in terms of like the whole core competency versus competitive advantage, just to kind of close that loop, core competency, something you if you don't do, you fail. Competitive advantage is something that you do that most others or no others do. So yeah, sure. For us, a core competency is getting the podcast up. I would say a core competency is also getting some articles up, right? Exactly. The competitive advantage of things that actually distinguish us, I hope, are going to be things more like the Slack channel and the office hours and Cockney and those types of things. Well, and the content, the quality of the content. I mean, I'd like to think that having boots on the ground, talking to these customers all week long and clients and then coming and just sort of being transparent about it is not what you're going to hear everywhere. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, I must admit, because I knew the question was going to come because it comes every week. And I've been thinking so much about our conversations around, like motivation is a myth and you just have to do it. You just have to say
stuck.
It's 100% stuck with me. And one of the things that I mentioned to you guys, I'm in this masterminds group. The final session is happening in a week or so. And we set a goal every month. And I told them that my goal for this last month was that I feel like I can do one thing really good, but I'm having trouble. And in my case right now, because I'm like still living the same pretty much quarantined lifestyle. I have either a really strong work week or kind of period of time, or I have a really strong exercise week, two things that are really important to me, but I always let one take over. And so Lauren, who runs the mastermind, and another girl that's in it, Lena, they both recommended to me that I try time blocking my schedule. And so just to write in my schedule, okay, from 8 to 9, you do this. And I've been trying to do it, and I have already seen that it's been helping me achieve certain tasks, or just like I know for myself, every morning I need like an hour to get going. I like waking up, putting a podcast on, having a shower, making coffee. I move slowly in the morning, but I need that time. So I've started actually scheduling it. so that I can't go over. If I sleep a bit later, I have less time to just like dilly-dally in the morning. And I have been setting up blocks in my schedule. So like, okay, from 11 to 1, you have to work on this task. And I do think that it is working. I'm not holding myself maybe accountable enough to that, or I'm not like blocking it enough. But I feel like I need some encouragement around my own accountability right now. Do you guys have any other tools or tips that work really well for you?
I've failed every single time I've tried implementing time blocking.
Because
as soon as I get distracted is the wrong word. As soon as a client email comes in, it's usually the thing. I can set whatever schedule I want for myself, but if a client email comes in, it's just gone. It's just whatever schedule I had set up gets removed, and I can't justify not answering that email, right, or not acting on it.
That's really interesting, because one of the things that I've told myself is you can't just be checking your email all day anymore. You can't, because that always throws me off.
And on my phone, and I dual monitors. I've got notifications popping up everywhere. And then I'm scared if I turn on Do Not Disturb and just focus for an hour on writing.
Yeah, Do Not Disturb is that. Oh, I know, it feels intense. I have it set for like certain meetings. Just by default, my phone will go on to Do Not Disturb, but then I let some emails just kind of get buried, because I just get too many emails. I subscribe to so many newsletters and stuff that I love, but if I don't actually stand up with my email, it's easy for things to get buried. And there was even an email amongst the 3 of us that I realized today I never responded with the time going through it, because I had like this kind of big stack of emails. And I mean, I accepted the invite to a meeting, but I didn't engage. And that was one of the things where I realized, and also for a different thing, I got like all of these Jira emails. And so I wasn't actually opening the Jira emails. And then I realized on Friday that there were a few emails from the same person sending me all those Jira things that then I didn't see for like 2 days, because part of my time blocking is I can't be refreshing my email or looking on Twitter or checking any social media at all.
Have you tried Hey?
No, I have not actually. Is that a real recommendation though?
It's your use case sounds like why they developed the service.
Okay.
I'm interested by it, but I can't change my email.
I don't want another email address. Holy hell. The context switching thing is really tricky. And that's, I mean, that is definitely a you know, what's the word? Just enemy of productivity, where you're sort of working on something, you're approaching some sort of flow state, you're approaching focus, and then you have to context switch into something completely different. And I think it's my biggest challenge. And I find like the one things that I hold sort of inviolate are my teaching times. Like so when I'm teaching during the classroom, these days online, obviously, I don't take calls. I don't, and I'm really focused on my students, and I wish I could do more of that type of focus in time blocking or what have you. But like Dan, I'll just get pounded from all sides, and then so the context switching with respect to email, like I'm that's the one thing I'm pretty diligent at. I'm not where I want to be, but I'm a lot better. And that's because I use an email client called Airmail, which isn't great, but it's okay. And it allows me to unify my inbox because I've got several different email addresses. And it also, I can use hotkeys, so I can blast through a ton of emails. And then what I've done, like what you're saying, Carly, like I've got specific folders and snoozes set for certain things. So I've unsubscribed to a lot of things, because that just, going through that. But the things that I still like, I have them kind of filtered and set so that then they pop up again. They'll come in, I don't even see them. They get on a timer, and then on Saturday or Sunday morning, I'll just get this sort of thread of music that I want to listen to, books, cooking, all that type of stuff. Because stuff gets lost amidst all those other things. And I think we're all guilty of it. but yeah, having some sort of email management system. And the other thing, and this is like the whole bullshit work, like, and I find myself doing a lot where I'll feel proud of myself for getting to kind of inbox zero. And that is good, but it's a weird KPI. It's just like, what have you really achieved? Like you've sort of leveled your stress a little bit. You feel like nothing's out there. You don't really get anything done. Like a lot of it's just sorting and foldering emails and categorizing things.
In fact, not only do you not get stuff done, you probably add more work because all those people that you just responded to emails, they're going to email you back.
Comes back in.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's fear sometimes.
Yeah. The thing that I've, for years and years, and I've written a lot about this, and I'll send the link over, the best methodology is hacking some type of version of getting things done. The David Allen book. I still think that that's a very durable system. And, all of the productivity tools, whether it's OmniFocus or Things or any of them, are all efforts at trying to technologize, if that's a word, the David Allen getting things done system. I can just throw a couple tips right now, and I've written tons on this, but I can send you the links for the show notes. A couple of them that have helped me and have remained durable, because it's like every system, there's a little bit too much of it. You can't adhere to all of it, so I've sort of hacked it. His 2-minute rule is a really good one. The one where the whole theory is around this idea of open loops, that in our brains we don't prioritize differently based on, like, in those 3 a.m. moments, you worry about the little things and the big things the same way, and they clog you up. So you can worry about paying your electric bill at the same level of anxiety as you can, like, getting a big presentation done for a client or something. And so his whole thesis is anything that you can do in 2 minutes or less, you should just do, right? So blast through emails, anything like that. Then he says anything that requires a second person, you put into kind of a bucket of kind of collaboration, like where you're waiting on some third party. And this is a good one too. Like, you have to forgive yourself, right? Like, you have to, and I'm really bad at this. Like, people will send me things and I'll have the best intention to get back to them about, advice or whatever business, and it'll just sit in my email inbox for weeks and weeks. At a certain point, it's kind of like, if you haven't sent grandma a birthday card and it's 3 months past her birthday, just don't. Just like allow yourself to forget. And so his strategy is like brain dump all of those things. Brain dump like all the things, all the open loops, all the things that you've thought about more than once without taking any action on. Just blob them down onto a piece of paper or notepad or whatever, and then start filtering and sorting them. So the things that you can do in 2 minutes or less, that goes in one pile. The things that require somebody else, that goes in another pile. The things that are left, the things you can forgive and just not going to happen. And then the other, and this is really important, make yourself a someday maybe folder, right? So whether that's emails or articles or whatever, you don't want to forget them, you park them and you put them in a someday maybe folder. So I've got in all my emails and files and projects, just ideas. And then you're meant to set like ticklers. So once a month you remind yourself, I'm going to go back and look at that. You discard the ones. What's left are projects, things that require more than one step to do. And then he says that what you're supposed to do at that point is do the very next action towards completion. So and it breaks it down. And so it's different than a to-do list. And then to avoid context switching, he says you should label things that can only be done in certain places. Like, so for me, I'll have lists, and now everything, but I used to have lists where it's like, okay, these I stick when I'm on a plane, right? So I know that when I'm on a plane, I'll bang through these. These I'll do when I'm on campus, because it does, and these I'll do it. Now we're all just in our houses for the most part, but that context switching. So I do recommend it. I think we can save people. I'd recommend the book, obviously, but we can save people some money on I've written a bunch about it, just kind of like Cliff's Notes versions on it. You can just sort of hack it to make it work for yourself. But when I'm feeling really out of control and overwhelmed, and then you get paralyzed, I always revert back to the David Allen getting things done thing. And just the first thing is that brain dump, just blob it all out. I do that with clients a lot. It helps them.
I love that. I love the 2-minute rule, because I have the same thing. I'll do something like, well, I'll just clean up my emails because that will give me a sense of accomplishment. But I know I haven't actually accomplished anything of real value. Like, And I'm constantly unsubscribing to things, but then I'm constantly resubscribing to new things. But the one tool that has helped me in that regard is Pocket, because I just pocket so much stuff where I'm like, I want to read this, but you don't get priority now. And then I can just go back to Pocket.
And you can use Pocket with a GTD approach, because you can tag it. So like you can tag it contextually. I used to tag Pocket things with Airplane, or tag Pocket things with Weekend, that type of, so to contextualize it better. And then I would tag things for ethics class or whatever. So
I do tag things work if I feel like there's anything related to work, or I even have like like podcasts or whatever. I do have tags there. But I was considering asking for your help, George, like maybe I can shortcut some of this. You're always talking about the shortcuts and how it helps you. But anyways, maybe, I don't know.
There's a lot of work being done right now on shortcuts and Apple reminders. And I know, Dan, you talked last week about how disappointed you are with Apple reminders. I've been disappointed with it too. The new beta version of iOS 14 allows for deep linking into shortcuts, to reminders, allows for shooting web URLs right into shortcuts and subtasks. So you can, it's getting there. There are certainly a ton of shortcuts out there for things like the GTD app, or OmniFocus, or Devon Think. It kind of just depends on how much effort you want to put in. And one of the good things about the David Allen system is you can do it with a notepad. I know, Carl, you like to actually handwrite things down
constantly.
So I mean, I think that it goes back to the skeuomorphism, where I heard a term that I love now, nuomorphism. Where, have you heard this, Dan? Yeah.
Well,
go ahead.
Because of the Worldwide Developer Conference, that's what everyone's been.
Oh, is that right? See, I don't know where. I assume, but I mean, I know that because Apple's getting rid of the skeuomorphism, have been, but I hadn't heard it's like German NEU, right? Like it's not neomorphism, it's NEU morphism. I don't know, but something that's kind of, I don't know. But one of the, a pad and paper sometimes is the best tool for GTD.
For me, it is. I'm literally like constantly taking notes, but
I got talking to productivity tools. I got really excited this week because I connected I've been using Todoist as my short and quick to do thing, and then Monday as my larger project management thing. And I realized they have an integration, and so now my world has completely changed because I put something in Todoist, it auto populates in Monday.
Is that through like a Zapier link, or do they actually have an integration?
They have an integration.
Yeah, I like that. I like where things are headed now, where you can sort of cobble together workflows, because you used to have to do them through Zapier or whatever, which is always clunky. The shortcuts in iOS 14 is super powerful, and it's getting more user friendly. So there's stuff to be done there. But I do think there are a lot of these tools out there. I think we're all battling the same things, and it's why, hey, as you said, Dan, is like, that's why they feel like they've got competitive advantage. I mean, the core competency of email is, does it send? Am I able to open it? Is it relatively fast? Yeah, you laugh, but like airmail is constantly dragging, and I'm just like, and I email the developers like, guys, because it's really great when it works, but it drags. So, I mean, some of them fail at that core competency. I used one before called Spark, maybe, and then it got screwed up because of two-factor authentication with corporate accounts. Like it just wouldn't work. So I had to move off of that. So, core competency, and there's that other one. What's the one that's $30 a month?
Superhuman.
Funny name. Superhuman. Yeah. So I mean, there's obviously people know that email is broken. There will be, in the next couple of years, I'd say, a convergence and a better integrated system around kind of GTD type notes with the inbox. You can see where it's headed, and it'll be through automations and then reminders based on time of day. It's surprising that hasn't happened yet. That there isn't better AI where it's just able to kind of understand what you're getting from whom and when you need to respond, and that'll happen.
Well, already, I mean, Google has the reminders and the nudges. They are trying, like if you open an email that has a question mark.
It's been 3 days. Yeah.
Exactly. And I have actually used that. I've dismissed many more than I've used, but you can tell that they're thinking about these kind of problems as well. That's the thing. I don't want to open an email sometimes, because when it's unread, it at least is top of mind and top of view.
I mark as unread all the time.
Yeah, you can mark.
I'll read it and then go back. And then the nudge, but anyways, like my little internal things just clearly aren't working. But I do think that because I like I said, my whole schedule has been the same since like March. I haven't really I'm very much quarantining to a large degree just because of where I am geographically, and the no schedule is hard to manage. Like normally you have to go somewhere for an appointment or a meeting. There are things in my life that require me to work around them and plan, and literally all of that is gone. Of course I have calls and meetings virtually and deadlines still, but I think the fact that my schedule feels so open every day, it's like it's too open. There's too much freedom in it, and then I end up feeling paralyzed.
Yeah, it's a real thing. There's sort of agoraphobia and paradox of choice. Well, I could do anything. I'll do nothing. And I think equal to that is and I've been trying to do this for myself, like having a point of demarcation where things stop. Because, and I've battled with this my entire career. I mean, you can work 18 hours a day. You can, right. And there's been this sort of bro culture thing where you're valued based on how tired you are, which is such backwards. I've been working. I put in 200 hours this week. It's like, great. I bet like 20% of those were actually effective, and the other 80% was just bullshit, right? And so those points of demarcation, where it's like, no, I'm going to stop now. And we all have certain clients who just feel that any time of day is on, you should be available. And I think part of being a consultant is like, you do set yourself up for that, right? You set yourself up for, okay, look, I'll be at your beck and call. And one of the core things that consultants need to do is to kind of put limits with their clients on expectations. So I've been really bad at that, and my work suffered for it. So and it goes back to something we were talking, I don't know, it was a whole Cockney thing. And like I was just, going on about how important kind of humor is and letting the brain release sometimes. And I saw some HBR article like 2 days later about humor can, but I've been trying to be more cognizant of that where, and I think this is where the exercise is interesting. You say, Carly, like it's either exercise or work. The interspersing of the two for me is important, like where I'll get so tensed up with work that I know I'm not functioning well. And if I go run for 15 minutes or something, I'll be like, oh, okay, now I can manage this thing. So, but, and laughing too, anything to kind of just let the brain settle a little bit. But some of that is not worrying about all the open loops in your head all the time, which is.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I've gotten some good tips, and I should just check out Todoist. I've been meaning to actually, and I kind of forgot until it was re-mentioned, so I will look at that.
It's not the only option. There's
tons of things.
Well, that's also the thing. There's too many options.
Well, but so I think you need to work back. That's, I think, not just my issue, everyone's issue. There's a million different options and tools. You need to figure out what your ideal workflow is and build to that, rather than someone said this tool is good, I'll try it out. And
yeah, well, exactly. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say that, like, the only thing I'm talking about mixing work and exercise, because I know for myself, like you just said, George, sometimes I need to just like break away, actually do some exercise. It clears my head. It helps me sleep at night, which I also struggle with. And so it's about like prioritizing the flow of it. And what I want to achieve is like just a better balance. I don't know what it is, but I get really bad brain fog too. And I feel like exercise takes me out of that, where I'm just like, I can just be ready to work, willing, able, all those things, like at my computer. And I'm just like, I can't, like my brain is just like, so that's why I've been trying to incorporate more exercise. And because I am just so at home all the time. So it's about been trying to find that balance, but then I've gone too far where then I'm like, I just get really into exercise because I've never really been into exercise, and it makes me feel really good and sharp and alert, but then I can't anyway, so.
But that's dopamine, right? I mean, it's like I
Totally.
it's I'm doing it sort of with cooking too, and I found it really interesting where like because I'm just spending most of my days in my kitchen working. Like I build a little desk in my kitchen that I work on, but now, and Dan knows this because he sees me, but I find it really productive where I'll kind of grind away at something, and then I'll get up and I'll stir my sourdough or something, and just like again, it's just that releasing of the brain. We were talking in one of the prior podcasts about like when you get stuck as a songwriter and you just like, oh, I just can't, look at a guitar again. Okay, so I'm gonna play the piano, right? And you can do a similar thing with work. Like I find sometimes if I pull out my laptop or if I write pen and paper, like just those types of switches can jar you out of that kind of paralysis.
One thing I heard recently, which I think was from Atomic Habits. I haven't read the book, but I think it's what the person was referencing. To improve whatever workflow you want or to add certain habits to your day, one of the tricks is to make them as convenient as possible, and any bad habits to make them as inconvenient as possible.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
So like Carly, you're talking about trying to exercise throughout the day. It's require a 30-minute break between all Zoom calls, right? So you're not doing back to back to back.
Yeah, I like that though, setting up like barriers for the things that won't actually maybe help you get to there. But
you're making it more challenging to kind of get at those things. That's why, I don't think anybody uses them anymore, but there used to be things where like it would just block you from accessing the internet or something. Everyone's like, I'll turn that fucker off.
Those, yeah.
Kind of switching gears, a recursive theme in the questions that we get is around kind of public performance licensing. And I saw just before I couldn't sleep at all last night, so I was just reading nonsense. But the Stones have put forth a cease and desist against Trump for using any of their songs, but because he uses "Can't Always Get What You Want" at his rallies, which I find to be a strange choice, to be honest.
Very.
But he's been doing it forever, and I've written a lot about this going all the way back to the 2016 election, because you hear about this constantly, and so the confusion is like, well, why is it that these politicians are able to do it? And what's happening, I mean, just in very quick kind of reason, is that there's these rights of public performance, and what happens is that arenas or event spaces buy a blanket license from ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, and once you have that blanket license, then you can play anything you want as long as it's under there. But there is a political exemption, and an increasing number of artists are going to the bureaus and saying, okay, look, we are not going to allow our work used for political things, because Trump and all the other candidates have to buy a political license for public performance at these events. And what's happened to this point is like it's like a whack-a-mole thing. So Trump will go and he'll have an event and he'll use Tom Petty or something. He did that the other day, and the state of Tom Petty goes, stop it, we this is unauthorized. And then Trump will say, yeah, but the venue has the blanket license, and they do, right? But now people finally, I don't know what's taking them so long. Now the writers are going to these bureaus and saying, you have a duty to stop. We do not want this out there. And it speaks to, and it's going to be lawsuits. And that's also the problem too. They take so long. It's like, okay, so you're going to sue us. By the time we adjudicate it's too late. But it's an interesting thing on the music business side for people to kind of get their heads around how their works are being used and in what context. We don't have in the United States the concept of moral rights and droit morale, where in other countries you can say, even though there's a license out there or it's a work made for hire, you can go ahead and if you use it, I'm going to sue you, even though we don't have that. We've used kind of tort law, name and likeness, to try to get around it. But it's interesting seeing this go. And I'm thinking, as I'm doing this Berkeley Radar project, this idea of embedding ethics into as a core competency, kind of, like not enough companies have thought of ethics as sure, we could do this from a business perspective, but is it the right thing? And so if you look at Facebook, right, these advertisers are now pulling out, right? So ethics can become in values. And as we think about new systems, and as Radar is building out, it's largely the students, but we're now, and I give a lot of credit to Nicole Davies at Berkeley, who's I think it's really brought a lot to the project generally, but also is constantly kind of insisting on the ethical kind of forward-thinking element of, well, okay, so now you want to use Berkeley students' work, because essentially we've got this database of Berkeley students. My whole thing, as you all have heard me said for a million years as well, the ethic is, will this help Berkeley students build sustainable careers on their own terms? If yes, let's consider it. If no, hard stop, right? Like, to me, that's an ethic. So if companies would build that value in at the beginning and then adhere to it, it would save them these problems down the road. Like BMI and ASCAP are going to have problems now. Facebook is having problems. Arguably, the country is having problems because we've chosen not to put ethics forward. We've chosen not to have that as a core competency. Some meandering shit there, but the copyright, ethics, all of these elements, we need to be thinking of ethics as a core competency and potentially a competitive advantage as we move forward.
Do you have an article coming on that?
I need one, man. I mean, the thing that I want to codify, like something to a certain extent, my life's work is trying to get this idea that transparency leads to ethical fiber, leads to reduced transaction costs, leads to higher impact, higher profit margin, right? And to me, that's just like as clear as a bell. And like I'm tilting at that windmill. One of these days I'll get it there, because I think it's the purpose, not product, to a degree. And that's become sort of commoditized. Like I see people, companies all over, or purpose for it. And it was interesting through this podcast, like, because I will take some claim of like yelling purpose, not product for a long time. I think that the evolution for me has been, sure, purpose, not product. And we talked about this here, but purpose that's bigger than yourself. And so purpose as a company that's bigger as yourself. And that differentiates it. Like, and I don't have a pithy little kind of statement around that, but just saying purpose, not product isn't enough anymore. It's become commoditized. It's become toothless. If you add that's bigger than you, so you add a value that it's not just about making money or stakeholders, there's something bigger, because that's really what purpose, not product is. And that's where you get to that sort of brand equity tie and customer loyalty and all the other elements. So that's kind of the life's work. I would throw out to people, and I think this is an interesting thing, because like we're seeing which companies have that and don't. Through all my teaching, I've always sort of posited that as companies reach a certain scale, they axiomatically become unethical, because they, at a certain point, just impossible. But if you look at, Carly, you brought up Ben & Jerry's, I think last week, Patagonia, we're increasingly seeing companies that are saying, we're gonna put our ethics first. So, but I need to write the article or the book. It's a book,
What have you guys written this week?
Well, our very long conversation about productivity tools, I think, answers that I didn't write anything.
Oh, you got to.
I know.
You need to build out some case studies on the personas.
Well, that's me. I've got the ball now.
Well, one of you has to do it.
Well, not case studies.
I hot potatoed that over to Dan.
I've got the next
you
but yeah,
deferred
you can do some case
assigned
studies.
It. There you go. I've been ramping up on a bunch of things. I've had things rattling around in my brain. I'm working on a piece about Jeff Tweedy's tweet that I talked about last week. I think that's really important. And so I want to get that right. He's not doing interviews right now, which is sort of a drag, because I was hoping to talk to him. I'm getting ready for my Christian Sands interview for Entrepreneurship and Art coming up. So I'm hoping that next week will be a more fruitful actual kind of publication, but I have been writing and just sort of putting ideas in. And that's the way I work. I put little snippets of text into my Bear Note. I tag it as to do, and then I go through. And that's very much a someday maybe thing too. Like I have my someday maybe. And so if I'm ever at a point where I'm at a loss for what to write about. I've got a folder full of ideas. 99% of them bullshit, right? But 1% that keeps rattling around in my brain. Like, I gotta write on that. And I think that's something too. Like, whether it's a business idea, a song, a piece, the thing that recursively kind of bats at you, like, pay attention to those. You know?
Definitely.
How about you, Dan?
I've got a couple. So I had a great night Friday night. I had the apartment to myself. I had maybe too many whiskey gingers. But I had my IA writer up, and I was watching. Julian Villard was doing his Friday night live stream, which is great. And it's this piece that we've talked about a couple times. Artists as media companies. I don't know if that's the right title, but just kind of getting away from a release-centric business model. Is the core of it. So while I was enjoying a couple drinks and watching his live stream, which was the closest, aside from like actually having Zoom chats with friends or FaceTime family, whatever, that was the closest I felt to like being with a group of people or at a show, because he's going live on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook and reading all the comments, and he's using, that's the name of the software, but he's putting comments up on the screen. And then he's talking about them, and it felt like I was at a party or something. Everyone was hanging out, and so that felt really special. But so while that was going on, I was working on this kind of this intro piece that talks about the idea of artists as media companies, why artists need to get away from the release model, and then I'd like to expand on that in future articles. So that's coming soon.
And I really, really want to just keep encouraging the listeners. I will be doing office hours on a regular basis. Want to know what you're working on? What are you writing? Ask yourself, what have you written, and share it with us. You know, what are you working on? It's so, man, it's one of my 3 things. But yeah, that what are you working on, listeners, and what can we help with, and what can we share and talk and organize communities around, of purpose, of value, of ethics during this time when it's so important to support people that are doing good work.
We have a channel in the ENA Slack called Share Your Work for people to drop in.
I love it. Yeah. I need to start sharing more of my stuff up there, just thoughts and ideas, because it is so helpful. I mean, this podcast is beneficial to me in so many ways, but hearing you all's thoughts sort of rattle through my brain during the day, and then being able to talk through them helps me articulate. It's very hard, particularly in these isolation times, to I don't know, ideas bottled up in your brain aren't any good, and yet having that encouragement from the right type of people in the right way makes all the difference. And that's what I want this to be. I want it to be an encouragement. Kind of goes about as good as get. Like, don't waste your own time, don't waste our time, but let us encourage you. So yeah, we need to be more active there. Tres cosas.
Let's do it. Who wants to go first?
Well, George,
you've made third.
Who has a depressing third? He said.
Oh, depressing third. Let me see. No,
because you've made yours this week sound great, George. So maybe I don't know if that means we should start or end with yours.
I don't know. I defer to you.
You don't know your 3 things. Go ahead, start it. Let's start.
Okay. Big. I shall start. So my first is a quote from Haruki Murakami. He is a Japanese author. The only book I've read of him is called the Wind Up Bird Chronicles, which is amazing. And I read it not that long ago, but it's really, really good. He's got others that I'm looking forward to reading. Norwegian Wood. But he put this quote out, and I think it's very relevant to what we're talking about, where he said, maybe working on the little things as dutifully and honestly as we can is how we stay sane when the world is falling apart. Maybe working on the little things as dutifully and honestly as we can is how we stay sane when the world is falling apart. And I've thought about that a lot all week, because so much is out of our control right now. It's frustrating to watch the mishandling of things, but working dutifully and honestly, it's helping to keep me sane. You know, just at the end of many days, I do feel like, well, I certainly put in an honest, dutiful day's work, and that's kind of the best I can do. And that's with my work and just trying to be a good human too. The second is I came upon a record that I hadn't listened to in a while by the French composer Alain Radic, called, Carly, you could pronounce this, I cannot, Trilogy de l'amour. But it's she was an early kind of 50s and 60s composer, part of the kind of musique concrète movement. And again, I used the word earlier, but musique concrète is, I can't get the accent, but it's about that epiphanic being, about that, like, it kind of, and it reminded me, Carly, of your soundscape piece. Like, musique concrète is taking cinematic kind of elements and moments and dissonance and melodies and restructuring them. So like people like Pierre Schaeffer. But anyway, so Alain Radic became a Buddhist. She went to Tibet. I love this part of the story. Her Tibetan teacher was like, your job is to go back to France and work on your music, which is, I mean, that's such a great, like, Buddhist thing, rather than be like, oh, okay, good, you're here, where you, it's like, no, you have to go do this thing. So the work that, I'm not going to butcher the name again, is influenced by the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Lots of Moog synthesizers and arps and stuff, but it's really peaceful and beautiful, and just kind of, it has that kind of flow of the breath, and like that. And then my third thing is, and I watched this last night, the documentary called Watts Stacks, WATTSTAX. And I don't think enough people have seen this movie. It came out in, it's a documentary about a concert that took place in 1972, which was the anniversary of the Watts riots that took place in 1965. And so, the Watts riots occurred because a young Black person was pulled over on suspicion of drunk driving. And it was just a kind of routine arrest, then became violent. 1,000 people rioted. People were burned down, things were burned down. And so it's obviously very resonant with the times these days. But so this amazing movie, what they did was that Hal Bell, who was running Stax at the time, put together a concert in 1972, and part of it was like, well, let's just get all the great Stax artists, and I think the tickets were like $1, and like 100,000 people showed up at the LA Coliseum to watch. And so if you've ever seen like the Maisles Brothers Gimme Shelter or any of those types of documentaries, it has that feel where it's interspersed with like just the goings on. Richard Pryor is in it, kind of, it's really hard to watch. It's really hard to watch for a bunch of reasons, but because so little has changed, and you could the same exact struggles that were happening in the 60s and 70s are now. And then it's interspersed with just some of the most unbelievable music you've ever heard, right? And so again, you get that crushing, together of art and empathy. But it's, Rufus Thomas, the Staple Singers, Albert King, Barclays, Carla Thomas, and then Isaac Hayes finishes it out, and it's just magnificent. The music is like, people like laugh at like Rufus Thomas Funky Chicken or something. Listen to it, right? Like, you can't get a better jam than that. And so it's an amazing documentary, one that should be watched now. Very difficult to watch, particularly given the circumstances. Hopefully we're moving in a different way, that we don't do the exact thing 50 years from now again. I don't know. But on a slightly lighter note, I was reading an interview with Steve Cropper, and he was talking about playing with Booker T and the MGs, which was the Stax house band. And Booker T went off to do something, and like, where will we ever find another organ player as good as Booker T and the MGs for all the sessions? And someone was like, oh, I know a guy. He's not doing much these days, in Memphis. And that guy was Isaac Hayes. So, yeah, my friend plays organ. It's Isaac Hayes. And so then Isaac Hayes, became Isaac Hayes. But I just think that's so amazing. What a crazy melting pot of like just like the greatest talent in the world in like a 10-block radius in Memphis in the six. She's like, yeah, this guy around the corner plays organ. Nobody, you know, I think he's like working part-time doing whatever. His name is Isaac Hayes. So anyway, and he's obviously amazing in the show, but the whole documentary is great. So those are my two things.
Where did you watch the documentary? Like, where
I watched
is it available?
on HBO Max. I got the HBO Max thing, and then that gives you access to Turner Classic Movies, which I guess, you know, and so I'm just scrolling through Turner Classic Movies. I was like, why is what's the Watts Stacks documentary? But I was like, thank you, right? Thank you, strange world, for having this in the Turner Classic Music thing. I mean, you know, please watch it. I'm sure you could probably find it on YouTube too, but that's how I watched it. Next.
Charlie?
I will go. The first thing I discovered, I actually haven't checked how long it's been there, and maybe it's been there for ages, but I noticed for the first time that Microsoft Word has a dictate button in the toolbar. And as someone that unfortunately has to do a lot of transcribing in her work, it's one of the things that I hate doing the most. It just takes so long. Transcribing even like a 30-minute conversation is like a 2-hour job at least. And I had interviewed someone, and I just hit the dictate thinking like, let's just see, because I always record my interviews, and it works pretty well. Yeah. It does the annoying thing where it's just like wall-to-wall text, like it doesn't have a break at all. So I ended up with 10 pages of just like text. But I was watching it at first, and I was actually really impressed by how good it was. At a previous job when I worked at Zoo Agency, which I've mentioned, I had to do a lot of transcribing there, but there would be like 2.5-hour interviews sometimes. It was like a horrible transcription process. And we used a tool called SpeedScriber, which is a paid tool that actually works pretty well. But now that I am just working as an independent, SpeedScriber, I don't know, it doesn't, and I just was looking for some other free options, or I just suck it up and transcribe it. But the dictate option on Microsoft Word may become a new tool, and it's something that maybe people are aware of this. I've never heard anyone talk about that as the Microsoft Word feature. Did you guys know that existed?
I mean, that type of thing is available, it seems like, everywhere, but I never press it, right? I never think to press it.
There's a lot of bad tools out there. I've tried so many.
I think my assumption is that they're all going to be bad, so I never press them.
And honestly, like, it may have been on Microsoft Word for ages, and I've just never noticed it. And I don't know why I noticed it this week, but I just was like, let's try it. And I have used so many tools. Free tools are normally just the worst, but I was really impressed. So again, it's probably like this super old Microsoft Word feature that I'm acting as.
Well, no, but they're all getting better and better, right? I mean, if you think one of the byproducts of all of this, you know, voice activated stuff is that the AI behind voice recognition is increasing at kind of Moore's law exponential, you know. So very soon, I'm constantly frustrated with Siri, or Siri or whatever, but Siri Cruz. She frustrates me.
Too.
Little Suri Cruz.
She's so bad at transcribing.
She's frustrating to me. But no, a sort of byproduct of all the hey Alexa, you know, it's
totally. I know.
The voice recognition.
The AI is getting better. But if anyone's looking for a free option and has to do some transcribing, again, you'd have to kind of watch it and like do some line breaks and to not have to then go through 10 pages of it. But I was actually impressed with its clarity on actually picking up what was being said.
Shout out to Microsoft.
Yeah, I know, weird.
Small
Word.
startup.
Whoop, whoop.
This cool new company called Microsoft.
Well, I will counter my Microsoft Word recommendation with Verso books. Have you guys heard of this?
Verso books.
So one of the things that I've been doing, as I've mentioned before on the podcast and to you guys, is I really want to just I want my reading to be, of course I can weave in just like some fun fiction or whatever, but I am really looking to do a lot of anti-racist work, and I want to have different storytellers and different voices. And that can also include fiction work, by the way. I think that I'm just looking for a different type of storytelling and storytellers. But one of my biggest problems is I don't constantly want to be going through Amazon either. So it's not only about the storytellers, it's about the publishers.
Big
and
time.
So
Great
I've been looking at, and it's difficult to find like an equivalent that just ships everywhere. So that's where Amazon just wins every time. Like, and so a certain book won't be a certain place. And actually I was looking for a specific author and was looking for some alternatives, and unfortunately I had to just buy the ebook, but I came across Verso Books, and they refer to them, yes, VERSO. And according to their website, they're the largest independent radical publishing house, but it's really
awesome.
cool because they have like series and reading lists. So it would be like climate change, where to start. And then there's a list of books and authors, or like, obviously there's a lot around the Black Lives Matter movement right now. So they'll have like abolition and Black struggle, or they'll have like, you know, feminine radicalists, or they have like kind of nice series, but they have literally every topic. They have economics, they have anthropology, they have music. And so that was a really great discovery. And I did actually get some books through them. I didn't get the author that I was hoping for, which surprised me. But that it would be one thing. If anyone has any good recommendations, I would love to hear that, because some kind of
Slack channel.
Yeah, like, and normally if I have a specific book or author, I'll look up their website to see where they're pushing it to, because obviously whether that benefits them more in one way, or it's what they align with, or whatever the case may be, I always try to let the author guide me where to find the book. But unfortunately, Amazon's often the best choice. And writing these show notes, whenever we mention a book, I always link it to Amazon. Again, it's an accessibility thing, and at least people can then find it. You know, it's not always available on other platforms, but I would love to know of more. And the thing that's cool about Verso is they also publish a lot of books too, right? So like, it's not just about being like a Barnes and Noble competitor. They're publishing what seems to be some really interesting stuff. So I haven't read anything from there, but I did make some purchases, and they do have a lot of they don't have a lot, that's not true, but they do a lot of, if you buy the paperback, you get a free ebook kind of thing. Yeah. And they also do some free ebooks. So they'll have like limited sales. They have a sale right now, but it ends on June 30th. So I don't know if it will be still up when this episode goes live, but, or they'll have like, you know, that there was that book, The End of Policing. You guys may have seen it just kind of circulating around social media. That was, the ebook was free on the site for a while. Like, they're trying to also just make certain books accessible. So it's not a free ebook, but you know, for a week or whatever, they'll put up some certain ebooks for free. So that would be a great place to just, if you're also just looking to explore some new authors, like again, it's maybe not the best place to go if you're looking for something specific, but if you're just looking for something different, they have literally books on every category.
And then I like it.
Yeah. And then the third thing is the book that I am reading that I was looking for is by Audre Lorde. I really wanted to read Sister Outsider, and I was having a hard time finding it. I mean, again, I ended up just getting the ebook, but it's a collection of her speeches and essays from the like mid 70s to mid 80s. And for anyone that doesn't know who Audre Lorde is, she was a Black poet, lesbian, mother, activist, cancer survivor, feminist writer. And the collection of speeches and essays cover different topics around oppression, be it sexism, racism, homophobia, ageism. She experienced so many different forms of oppression in her life, but she also talks about or writes about rather, you know, violence against Black women, police brutality, love, war, like really motherhood. I really like it. And I had a similar sense, even reading Patti Smith's Just Kids. When you're reading something that feels like poetry, like it's so beautifully written. These are essays and speeches, but it's like you're reading a long form poem. And I had that feeling also at many times in Just Kids. But and it's nice too, because I really do like anthologies and kind of short story collections, because you can, especially if you want to just like read for a little bit and you can kind of absorb something and then move on. But it's just such beautiful writing and speaking. And so Sister Outsider is what I'm reading and loving. That's my third thing.
Great recommendations.
Awesome.
Dan, what about you?
Before I get into my 3 things, in Slack we do have an art recommendations channel. So let's fill that up.
Build it up.
All right.
Stir it up.
My 3 things.
I will put those in the Slack channel. That will be also one of my actionable to-dos. Verso books, Audre Lorde, and to try to actually get some recommendations for other places too. So thank you, Dan.
Talk about a 2-minute to-do, right?
Yeah. Actually, it's a 2-minute task.
All right. First are these headphones. You may have noticed.
Really white.
I've got this very white. Yeah, and there's an interesting reason why. These are Audio-Technica ATH M50X WH professional studio monitor headphones.
It's a catchy name, man. I won't ever forget that.
So I had previously, since we started doing this podcast, and whenever I was editing videos for clients, generally I've used my Bose headphones. You can't use AirPods with things like Logic or Adobe Premiere because of Bluetooth. So my issue was because they're really all headphones are biased in some way. They got kind of an EQ pattern that
Bose is the worst. In my opinion.
No, absolutely not. Because when I bought those Bose, I tried a bunch of different headphones. My go-to are Grados. I've got a pair of Grados that I love because those are very clean, but they're open back and you can't travel with them. They're what I use for record listening. But I bought the Bose because they sounded as neutral as possible. Sony. Everyone goes to the Sonys, and I wanted noise canceling, so that one would be everyone loves the Sonys, and they have way too much bass. Beats have way too much bass. Yeah. The Bose QC35-2s had the most neutral kind of sound profile out of all of them, but they're still kind of biased, especially because noise canceling. Once you put noise canceling in there, it's going to be some EQ stuff.
Sure.
So I noticed it when I was editing audio, because I'm doing some EQ and trying to get everyone to sound as natural and clean as possible, that whenever I did it on my headphones, it just wasn't coming out right once I would switch to my AirPods or just listen wherever. And I've got monitors in my apartment, but it's an apartment in Brooklyn, so there's all this noise. I need something that's headphones, and I reached out to one of my best friends from Berkeley, who's now an upcoming kind of hotshot producer. And I was like, dude, what do I do? What do you do? Because he gets a lot of work where he's, I think he's kind of graduated beyond it, but he's editing stuff. Yeah, sure. Luke Nicolai. I don't know.
Luke Nicolai.
He asked me to scrape stuff off the internet for him a lot, so I don't know how much he wants his name out there right now. But because he used to be an artist, and now he's producer behind the board, so it's fine. If you look him up, that was probably the reason why we were talking this past week, was because he's like, dude, when I look up Luke Nicolai, I find that I produced an EP for him back in when I was in college, and that's what comes up. And as great and nostalgic as it is for the two of us to listen to it, you know, he's now writing for top 40 artists, and he doesn't really want that to be what comes up. And it's like the picture that shows up on the knowledge panel on Google is his photo from a photo shoot he did in high school. So it's he's a great guy. And he said
braces.
No braces, but it's a very moody photo shoot, very teenage angst. But he said, he's tried a bunch of different headphones, super expensive ones. He said the ATH M50Xs are the way to go because they're as neutral as possible. And then he said, make sure you get the white ones because those sound better. There's no way. That's got to be placebo.
No. That's a subtle distinction there.
My preference would have been just like black pair, but actually the black M50s are now Bluetooth for whatever reason, so you have to get white. But so if anyone out there can't use monitors and wants a good audio editing solution, I would recommend these.
Good tip.
Number 2, Anything You Want by Derek Sivers. We found in CD Baby.
CD Baby, dude. Okay.
So this is it's a very short book. It's very Seth Godin-esque. You can probably read it in one sitting. I haven't finished it, but it's interesting. it's a business book. It's kind of his story of starting CD Baby, and I think the subtitle is like 40 lessons I learned, something like that. Super Seth Godin-esque to the point that he dedicates the book to Seth Godin. But it's interesting because so much of what he's saying is just contrary to every single entrepreneurship book or talk that I've read. He talks about staying small. He talks about turning down investors, focusing on purpose. We talked about most passionate percentile last week. That's kind of what he talks about. It's very contrary to the move fast and break things, get as big as possible. And so I don't think the book alone is the best thing in the world, but it's such a refreshing kind of counterpoint to all the hustle bullshit, all of
and
maybe it's just kind of contrarian. And I think it came out probably 10 years ago, but it's
okay. Good. Yeah. I thought this was new, so I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
But it's just a good little book. And I think for anyone that doesn't respond well to kind of what the status quo entrepreneurship talking points are, this is a good one to read. And it kind of fits the point that you were talking about, Carly. Get different perspectives, right? Especially in the business world, the same things are repeated over and over and over again. So this is, we'll link to it. This is a fun book. The last is an album that came out about a week and a half ago, Punisher by Phoebe Bridgers. Do you guys know Phoebe?
Yeah. I actually almost had this as one of my top 3 things last week. That's so funny.
Well, so
she's very, very good.
The album is great. But I wanted to bring it up. One of the things I've always really liked about Phoebe is, especially since her first album, she has done so many collaborations, which is something that is, I think we've talked about on here. That's a big hip hop mentality, right? Do features, do a verse, do things like that. So I thought I would list out some of the collaborations to talk about today. I didn't realize how many she's actually done. It's wild between her first and second album. So I'm just going to rattle them off. But she did a whole album with Julian Baker and Lucy Dacus as Boy Genius. She did an album with Conor Oberst of Bright Eyes called Better Oblivion Community Center. Then she did one-off songs with Matt Berninger, The National.
Oh, The National.
Lord Behringer. The 1975 Storefront Church, Lucas Frank, Xander Hawley, Noah Gunderson, and Ethan Gruska. That's wild. Why is this not more common? Why is it?
Well, that's the right question. Why is there not more of it? Because as you say, in hip hop and jazz, I mean, the collaboration is the thing. The kind of indie rock or whatever you want to call it, it's very secular and it's to their own detriment.
But I think so much of this happens behind the scenes. Like people write together, people send each other work and get feedback. It just never happens publicly as, a featured artist or a collaboration. It's just awesome. It shouldn't be as secular as it is. But
that's so funny. Go, George.
It's a certain mindset too, right? I mean, like I really think that, and I think it's a lot of artists have that bias. I'm going to create my thing in my space or whatever. For whatever reason, but it's I see it in business all the time where it's like I'm going to keep this idea to myself, this strategy to myself. No good comes of that. We have to move much more to a kind of seat of the soul approach where it's expansiveness emerges from collaboration and the sharing of ideas. It's all about the execution, right? So that's a great choice. I love her kind of ascension. I was sort of vaguely aware of her work before this new record, but I've gone and listened to it. It was really good.
Can I add? So we've mentioned before that it probably will happen that one of us will have an overlapping 3 things.
You need a word for like a bingo or something. Yeah.
I actually almost always have a 4th option just in case that happens. By the way, because I'm nervous about
plan.
It.
Yeah.
Yep, I've like had carried over a backup a couple of times because I'm like, it's going to happen soon for sure. And I almost she was going to be on my list last week. That's really funny. But I had another idea while you were talking about that book. This is an idea that just came to my mind, and you guys can veto it immediately. But Dan, I feel like the books that you read, I'm always so curious, and those aren't the books that I gravitate to. We could have, like, if we're sharing different books and pieces of art, it'd be nice if we like read the same books sometimes and could actually talk about them.
Are you suggesting a book club?
Yeah, I didn't want to use the term.
I think we should, and we should open it up to readers and say, okay,
exactly,
this
and
week,
then we
this
could
month,
suggest
whatever.
books, and then we could talk about it, like, you know, once a month.
You need a social object. You need something that people galvanize around, a topic or whatever. So that's a great. I love that idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe we can think about that, because whether it's like, you know, some kind of,
maybe we start with Getting Things Done, or the book that Dan just recommended, or one of your, I mean, I don't think it necessarily has to be a business book, you know, but
well, we could switch it up sometimes too, but like, I think it was
if we each take a turn picking a book, then
exactly. Because I think
Moby
it was
Dick.
Maybe like our summer reading.
This week, Anna Karenina. This week, Don Quixote.
Yeah, I mean, but why not? Yeah. Because we've mentioned, like, you know, the Instagram book filter, is that what it's called?
Filter.
Or, you know, like things like that, where it's, you know, like maybe more creativity based stuff, but it would be nice also, we can just throw in whatever, but then it could be a way people can read with us, we can share suggestions, and I would like it because I often add your books to my list, both of you, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I get to them quickly. Mm-hmm. So it could be kind of fun if we all read the same book.
Great idea.
Well, let's do the first one on July 1st.
Yeah, let's think about what we want that to be. Put a call out. Pardon?
I'm doing cookbooks.
QuickBooks.
Yeah. I'm going to do QuickBooks. Our first is QuickBooks for Dummies.
Yeah, great. Okay, cool. I think that could be fun. And it's, a way people can kind of get involved and share some feedback and some recommendations too. Maybe a listener could even be the deciding, the decider of what we read. So cool. Okay.
Maybe this summer we'll each take a turn picking a book once a month, and then maybe by the end of the summer we have enough people joining us so we can start doing polls for what do you want to read this week.
Such a great idea. Yeah.
Cool.
What's your idea, Carly? I think you have to pick the first one.
Okay.
And it has to be a cookbook.
About QuickBooks.
From the 18th century.
A delicious QuickBooks book.
A cookbook written in the 1700s.
Yeah, perfect.
This is how you make porridge from a rock.
Or no, what was that? The Bob Dylan crazy recipe in that one article with suet.
Suet. No, but the one that I remember was Snoop's 7-layer nachos, and 6 or 8-layer nacho was buy a 7-layer nacho and then add weed. I don't remember what he added to it.
I think he added chicken wings onto his nacho. It was something ridiculous. It was like 7-layer dip and then like chicken wings on top.
Ridiculous.
But I told you guys about Coolio's cookbook?
No.
Where everything is measured in dime bags?
No.
Oh.
Hilarious.
I will find. I bought that book years ago.
Sure.
Why? Why?
No, I bet it's out of print now. Why? Because that's funny.
It's hilarious.
I will find it and
delicious
on art recommendations, because that is art.
Coolio. Time for a Coolio comeback. Gangster's Paradise.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, I think that the key message, I just would ask both of you and all of our listeners and anyone who happens upon this, before you go out for work week or leave the house or go into a restaurant or anywhere, just please, I think at this point in time, it's imperative that you wear pants.
I thought you were going to be serious and say wear a mask.
I knew exactly where that was going. Carl, you should have seen that. You're the queen of foresight.
Better. I should have known better. No, not foresight. I'm just a good, Yeah, I should have known.
I see Dan rolling his eyes, and Carly was waiting for the wear a mask. Just think to yourself, would I want to be walking down the street and see someone coming at me in the opposite direction without pants on? The answer is probably no. Wear pants. Art entrepreneurs, wear pants.
Artpreneurs. It's not that hard. Artpreneurs.
It's hard for me. I have a disability. I would appreciate it if you would respect
We as a
my First
society.
Amendment rights to
Yes.
mispronounce artpreneurs. My
How
right,
many
my right.
times a week do you say artpreneur? Smash them together. Exactly.
Portmanteau. I can't pronounce that word either. How do you say it?
Portmanteau.
Portmanteau. Bonjour. Pants. How do you say pants? Pantalones. Pantalones.
No, just pantalon.
Have a good week, artpreneurs.
Yes, on that note.
Wear your pantalones. Wear your pantalones. Bye.